Well, welcome on in, everyone. We are the Not From Philly podcast. If you look at our Twitter and socials and stuff, you'll probably see that Philly sports fans are having a rough go of it these last 2 weeks. The Eagles season is over. We lost to the 49ers in the wild card round. Didn't, put on a good display. Didn't really go out with much of a fight. And then obviously yesterday we all see the two big pieces of news for the Phillies, where we somehow lose out once again to sign in another big free agent. We thought Bo Boucher was pretty much locked in. I mean, a lot of us probably had doubts that it was ever going to happen, myself included, but I still held out that sliver of hope that, because it looked like it was getting close. And then in the 11th hour, the Mets out of nowhere swoop in and steal in from under us, and we are left without another big name. And Ranger Suarez has gone to the Boston Red Sox, so I'm sure Justin is happy with that. Are you happy with that, Just? I hope. I imagine
Yeah, I'm
it's
a
not. Yeah,
yeah, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad. If
yeah.
if we can get to October, if the Red Sox can actually make it to the playoffs, it might be really
Mm,
good. But just getting there is going to be a problem.
yeah. So we'll get into it all. So guys, how you feeling? Justin, Corey, Drew. It's been a rough one, boys. I know we've all got plenty to get off our chests today. So just I'll start with you, and then we'll go with Corey and Drew. So how you feeling, fella?
Uh, like I said to start when you and Corey was just shooting the bull when we first got on here, man. This week's been rougher than a night in jail, man. I'm telling you. Looking back, I rewatched the game one time. I probably will never go back and look at it, but the linebackers that they had were not even on the team a couple of weeks ago. Their defense had been decimated by injuries. Their wide receivers supposedly were slow and not fast and agile. They were without Ricky Pearsall, who's quite possibly their better wide receiver this year. And we got beat. We on paper we were the better team. We had 20 of 22 starters out there. You and me and Drew talked last week. Maybe Marcus Epps, it would be counting him. It would be 21 out of 22 because he has played a little bit better than Drew McCuba. But watching this team has been a chore all season long, and
Oof.
they put us out of our misery that last week. Man, it was I don't know why I expected anything different. I guess I was hoping and praying that the switch would be flipped and we're in the playoffs and we're going to kick some ass, take some names, but it never happened, man. We should have like we talked about last week. We should have went after their linebackers more. We didn't really do it. Nothing went right. We started out first drive looked great, and it seemed like after Jake's missed extra point, shit just went downhill quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all I
I mean,
got.
I agree. I agree with Justin. I mean, like I'm always have optimism. You know what I'm saying? I'm always the optimistic guy when it comes to the Eagles.
Mm.
I mean, probably to a fault, but just the way like this whole week has gone. I mean, so like us losing, obviously it was a killer, a bummer. Like you hate that. I just feel like everything leading up after the loss on Saturday or Sunday has just been like, I don't know if it has been worse or like just as worse. Like I don't like
Yeah.
how there's been like a smear campaign on the head coach and the quarterback. Like I don't like that. I mean, like you being an organization and the Eagles being like first class organization, I feel like this happens too often. Like I mean, if we go back
Yeah.
and look at our last quarterback, we look at our last coach, it was the same thing. Like, and this is a whole different regime. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of the same people in the building. The front office is mainly the same. So it's like when I'm sitting here, it's like, are these reports coming from Howie? It's just weird to me that it's almost like identical, but a different head coach and a different quarterback, and it's like the same kind of. Well, this guy
Yeah.
can't hire OCs. We're taking that over. The quarterback is the
Yeah.
reason. Like this is a organizational problem. Like it's not a coach and quarterback problem. And
Yeah.
as soon as they realize that, maybe they will be better.
Yeah. Definitely. How you feeling, Drew?
Yeah, I think Corey made some interesting points with some of the parallels there. Because as we're watching the first half of the game, like it kind of reminded me of last year's Rams playoff game. And the score was actually coincidentally the same. It was like 13, it was 13-10 at halftime. And I feel
Yeah.
like the Eagles, for all their flaws, have typically so often, I'd say like 80 to 90% won that type of game the past couple years, where despite, obviously, the offense showing warts and things, I kind of convinced myself we were gonna win the game. And even like when it ended, when Eric Kendricks like breaks up the pass, it was kind of like I shouldn't be shocked, but also like, wait, like we lost, like I feel like there should be more time, or like another
Yeah.
quarter, or like it just kind of, to me it's the worst. To me it's the worst ending since the Alshon drop in New
Yeah.
Orleans, just because
Yeah.
just kind of like the suddenness and like the thud of it being over. And look, I know we'll start getting into like coordinator and like offseason stuff and all. I don't think next year is going to go the way of 2020 by any means. I do think the franchise is healthy, but I think Corey made some interesting points in that, like, the way this week kind of played out reminds me a little bit of how, like, the week after like 2019 with the Seahawks loss played out, where you have your leaks, your firings, your everybody, questions start swirling. So yeah, it was a rough week all around. It's not a fun
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, it's all like starting to come out now. We see in the stuff about AJ Brown reportedly. Don't we don't know. It's looking like it could be some truth to it, that he about on 3 occasions this year he's supposed to have requested to be traded. So we don't know if when you look back at the season, was that why he was struggling to come back, or maybe that was why there was the lack of effort. I don't know. We won't quite find that out yet. So, I got like 3 pieces of things I want to start with the Eagles. So obviously, it's they're looking around now. Who is the offensive coordinator going to be? Who's going to come in? You got Mike McDaniel. You got Daboll, the old Giants coach. There's all these different names out there. Stefanski, he's from Philly. So who is going to be the right fit? So then we'll get. So who do you guys? Is there a certain name that you like that's out there? Who do you think could fit possibly? I know there's a lot of thing about Mike McDaniel. He seems to be a big thing, but you've got all these other things coming out there, and about the Jalen can only run certain offenses and stuff, which I don't think is 100% true, because we've seen all the different things that Jalen can do. It's just for whatever reason they just can't. There's certain times in the year, different seasons, where they just can't keep that consistency with the coordinators. So what do you guys think about who should come in here with a certain type of offense? There's talk out there that whoever comes in, the Eagles are going to be willing to give them full control over the offense. Do you think that can happen? Do you think that will be allowed? Did how are you guys? What's your initial thoughts on who should come in with the offensive coordinator stuff?
First off, I was surprised at how quick they moved on this. I thought if they made a move, it might be next week. To be honest with you, like I was surprised. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday that they announced that they had removed Patullo?
Tuesday.
I think it broke Tuesday
Okay.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I seen it on Twitter that Drew had made the statement, or in our group. I can't remember. And I'm more than positive Drew made the statement that look for it to happen, 7, 8 days out. It was I was surprised at how fast it was. But do I think they will give full autonomy to whomever it is? Depends on who it is. If it's Charlie Weiss Jr., the offensive coordinator from Ole Miss, now LSU, no, they're not giving it to
Yeah,
a
I've seen his
31,
name.
32-year-old. Yeah, they're not giving it to that guy. If it's Mike
No.
McDaniel or Brian Daboll, I think they would. But I wanted Todd Monken, but I tend to agree with something Corey said, because our last few offensive coordinators that we got from the Chargers led us to a Super Bowl path. So give me Greg Roman if that's the case, because Corey, I wasn't thinking about that. Corey's playing 3D chess with us, y'all. When he brought that up, I was like, oh, I never thought of that, because Steichen came from the Chargers, Wright came from the
Yeah.
Chargers, So
Yeah.
Kellen Moore was with the Chargers. So give me Greg Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my top three candidates. So obviously, the dream candidate. I feel like everyone would say is Mike McDaniel. I don't know if you guys agree with that. That's me. Like if I say like number one, I would want him. The thing with the whole Jalen Hurts can't run multiple, like obviously I'm a Jalen first fan. And I don't want to be put into a box like, oh, I'm a like, Jalenism or Jalen Knight or whatever. I just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
don't like how there's a narrative that, oh, he can only run on offense. Like every quarterback has their way of doing things, right?
Mm.
Like prime example. If you look at the 49ers, like Trey Lance was a top five pick. He was a lot
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
talented than Brock Purdy. So when you put him in a Shanahan offense, Shanahan's offense is a lot of based on timing, getting the ball out quick.
Yep.
But what happens when you have like athletic quarterbacks, not saying that Brock Purdy isn't athletic, is like they all tend to hold the ball long. Even Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the NFL, but he holds on the ball longer because he's athletic to be able to extend plays. So I think that like that's
Yeah.
one narrative that we push that I don't feel like is fair. Right? Now, two, who is my goal, like my dream offensive coordinator? I want Greg Roman, I want Brian Dable. Two reasons why. Greg Roman is because I feel like he's had a lot of successful quarterbacks he's been able to run. Um, he's not going to have too complex of an offense, which, I mean, not saying that that's negative, positive, or whatever, but I feel like what we want to do with our quarterback, I feel like he could build something. He has a lot of knowledge. He's had success with Colin Kaepernick. He's had success with Lamar Jackson. Similar type
Yeah.
of quarterback. And the reason why I want, like, if I would have to say my, like, 1A is Brian Dable is because I think him and Nick Sirianni have a good relationship. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Brian Dable, like, when Nick first got to Philly, he said that he had, like, an extensive conversation with Brian Dable about Jalen Hurts and, like, what makes him tick and all that. And Jalen Hurts also has a relationship with Brian Dable. So when you have the quarterback and the coach already having a good relationship with the guy, I think that's already a plus. Now, I mean, Brian Dable, I've heard, is very fiery, but I feel like already having that pre-existing relationship would be like beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. They could definitely do with maybe flipping the switch a bit this time and going with an older, experienced guy. It worked with Vic Fangio on the defensive side of things. They've had some young guys. I know Kellen Moore had some experience and what have you, and it worked out, obviously. But they could do with changing it up a bit. And those are definitely two good names, experience. And like you said, Brian Dable, he might be a lot cooler with Jalen because he hasn't got the head coach responsibilities of it all. You know what I mean? So that could work out. So what's your thoughts on it, Drew?
Yeah, so my dream guy would be Kevin Stefanski. I was impressed at times with what he did in Cleveland with the one season with Baker. And I feel like, look, if you win a playoff game in Cleveland, you're doing something right. I also think, with him having a connection to the city, that he's probably going to get another head coaching job at some point. But I think he might, if he took the job here, might be willing to, wait it out for like 2-3 years and kind of be, patient versus just kind of, jumping for like the first
Yeah.
job, which is obviously what we saw what Kellen did. I would be open to Daboll as Todd Monken came off the board. I've gotten more into Daboll. I do have Kingsbury written down. I think what he did with Jaden Daniels last year was impressive, and I'd say an off the cuff name that I think could kind of be a sleeper candidate, and there would be some risk to it because he's never called plays in the NFL. But David Shaw, who was the longtime Stanford coach, I think could be interesting. I think was the Lions passing game coordinator this year. And I know they had issues this year, but I don't think like their passing offense, took a step back. I think they just had a lot of, changes going on their staff. He and Nick Sirianni would kind of have the common bond of like having both coached Andrew Luck in the past. I think he could bring some interesting concepts. It might just be a me thing. I'm not in love with the idea of McDaniel. Not that I'm trying to placate Jalen, but I don't know. He just kind of comes off as like, for lack of a better phrase, like a weird guy. I don't know how Jalen's personality would vibe with him. And I feel like there were
Yeah.
times when he went up against like some of the best defensive minds where he struggled. Like I think there was a playoff game a couple years ago against the Chiefs in Spagnuolo where I think the Dolphins put up 7 points. Now that could be a one-off thing, but I'd say if you're able to bring Stefanski in here somehow, I think that'd be a home run hire.
Yeah.
So real quick,
I just want to say real fast, like I forgot, like the Cliff Kingsbury. So I think Cliff Kingsbury was actually a finalist for the Eagles OC job when we hired Kellen, but he chose to go to Washington. So like I forgot about him, Drew.
Yeah, he's not my top guy, but I think he's interesting. Go ahead, Justin.
No worries. Something that Corey hit on that I like with Dayball is he is a fiery type of guy. And maybe that's something that Jalen needs because the offensive coordinators we've seen that he's worked with have been more kind of even tone, even keel type guy. Maybe he needs somebody to light fire under his ass to get him going. And the I guess the relationship they had in the past when he was at Alabama. That's the thing that I like, that they know one another. But yeah, that fiery type personality, that could be something that's a positive for us. With Greg Roman, though, I saw this week, I don't know if you guys did, I see Mekhi Becton came out and he said something that he had issues learning things with the Greg Roman offense.
Yeah, I seen that.
So I don't know if that's a Mekhi Becton issue where he got used to the coaching from Stoutland last year. I know he wasn't happy with the Chargers, and I just really wish there was some way we could bring him back because he was great for us last year. And I think that's part of the reason the tush push struggled because Steen's just not the big bully physical specimen that Becton is at guard.
No. And Mekhi Becton was hurt, I think, a few times this year with the Chargers as well. Wasn't he off and on? So, like, you're not getting that consistent play, and you're going to struggle then when you're trying to go back and learn, maybe new things that have been put in halfway through the season or whatever, So, so speaking of, like, being fiery and things, AJ Brown, what the season's over, and here comes the AJ Brown sort of drama and different things that are coming out. And you saw, I really found it funny last week. Like, I'm glad Nick did it during the game, when he ran down the sideline and he like went nuts with AJ Brown. I think it was because he either didn't get off the field in time or something, or it was, for maybe not putting enough effort in on trying to, make these contested catches. And, Nick went flying at him. And I don't know, you guys, did you notice that, AJ then obviously started to square up to Nick Sirianni, and Nick sort of like backed off a little bit, sort of like to cool down. So I found that like quite funny. And then, it just became a disaster from there. So like, we've seen now this week that it's come out apparently, 3 times this season AJ requested a trade and was obviously denied, and so we don't know if maybe that affected his lack of effort sometimes going for these balls, because there was 3 times in that game last week where he should have made those catches, and at the end, I didn't think that was a bad throw that Jalen made. It looked catchable. It sort of, went through AJ's hands. You got to make the catch. Was it a great play call? I don't know. We've seen the clips afterwards where Jalen is, he goes to Nick and Kevin Patullo, and he's sort of looking a bit like baffled as to why they're sort of like calling the play that they did. But we were not there. We don't not hear what's actually being said and stuff. But so how are you guys feeling about AJ? Obviously he's still a good player. But we've heard all week on WIP that, because of how the season has gone, has his trade value started to decline? If we were able to trade him, if we did trade him, are we going to get a first round pick back for him or second round pick? Are we going to get a player that matches, nearly matches the talent of AJ Brown? Because the talent is still there. He's still a great wide receiver, but for whatever reason this year, whether it was at the start of training camp because he missed some of it because of the hamstring injury, when he come back, he just didn't quite look the same. You could see sometimes, I think during like the Minnesota game, there was a catch that he made and he didn't quite run with that aggression that he usually does, that you see with him with the run after the catch. So how are you guys sort of feeling about AJ? Would you be happy to see him go, or has the value declined where we won't, maybe we get one more year out of AJ and then we trade him? There's been that talk. So how are you guys feeling overall about AJ Brown? Just to start, go with you first.
I'm out. I've had enough. I appreciate everything he's given us. We went to 2 Super Bowls, won one with him. But I just, going back to something they said on WIP this week after the Super Bowl, I kept saying, hammering down on the point that he said he wasn't satisfied, that he wanted to dominate. And the
Yeah,
way it came off was like what they said. He wasn't just satisfied with the win. He wanted to go out there and have 10 catches, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You know, not be satisfied with whatever his stats were and a touchdown. I can't remember what he had, but let's just say it felt like he would have been happier if he'd have had 10 catches, 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a loss. That's the way he made it sound. He ever since 2023, I think, maybe,
yeah,
it's just been a steady decline with him for me, man. He is a phenomenal talent, but I cannot get behind it anymore. And then, it came out yesterday that he supposedly requested a trade 3 times. I think, when we saw it come out that Mr. Lurie and Big Dom had a meeting with him on the practice field, I think that was Mr. Lurie coming out saying, look, we're not trading you this year. Come back, play your best, keep your mouth shut, do the best you can this year. And after the season's over, we'll see what we can do. But we're not trading you
yeah,
this year. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. I think that's what that was about, in my personal opinion. And then the thing with Nick ripping his ass on the sidelines. I'm not a big, dress somebody down in public type person. I'm
mm,
not. I've with how I work. I've worked in factories and shops, and I've been dressed down in front of coworkers, and dang near lost my job one time because I almost came to blows with a boss over it. But my opinion is, I think the drops that AJ had and then getting off the field slow, it just built up, and that's what Sirianni was bitching about. Because if you look, Jordan Mailata was slow getting off the field at that time too. But prior to that,
mm.
AJ had 2
I did hear
crucial
that, yeah.
drops in the game, and he was lollygagging, getting his ice off the field, and Nick was just fed up with it, and it all just came to a head at that point. But I'm done. I've made the statement. If he wants to go to New England, give me a second or a third in Kayshawn Booty and roll on. But I don't know if we could get that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. How are you feeling, Cole?
So it's so like the dynamic is so funny just because you see Andy Reid and you see Travis Kelce in the way that during Super Bowls, during postseason game, like put hands on each other, and
Yeah,
it's like the dynamic is just like people don't like Nick Sirianni. Like let's just say what it is. Like people
mm,
don't like Nick. So whenever he does something to draw attention to himself, it gives them more ammunition to not like him even more. So
yeah,
I honestly don't have a problem with what Nick did. Like, I mean, could he have not done it? Sure. I mean, Nick wants to win the game. He's probably frustrated. I get all that. But Nick also has
yeah,
to understand you have to be the same coach every single time, every
yeah,
single way. And
yeah,
like a good point was like when AJ Brown was making those tweets and causing a lot of disruption in the media, you supported him. Now it's like you want to get in his face and be fiery, and it's like that's one thing that I respect about these old time coaches like Belichick, Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin is that they're the same. They don't coach everyone the same, but they're the same coach with everybody, and I feel
yeah,
like that's a way that Nick could improve. So when it comes to AJ Brown, like I think that this team just needs like a breath of fresh air. Obviously, AJ Brown
yeah,
has a huge personality in that locker room. He has a huge following. I'm pretty sure he has a lot of friends, popular, big personality. And I just feel like, and I know this sounds wrong, but if there's a rift between him and the quarterback, you gotta choose. And I know that sucks, but I mean, like we seen it happen with many people before. We've seen it happen with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. We've seen it happen in the past. Like you have to make a decision because you don't want this to continue to linger. Even though he's a good player, you want this locker room to be like this. Like you don't
yeah,
want stragglers and people divided. You want it to be all right. We all have one mission. We all have lockstep, and this is what we want to do. Now, like the whole trading aspect, if they trade him, sure. If they bring him back, I'd be okay. But I feel like if they bring him back, There needs to be a lot of conversations with AJ, his agent, Mr. Laurie, Howie. Listen, this is what we're doing. This is going to be our plan this year.
Yeah.
We have a team full of, a lot of great players. You might not get the ball as much as you want. Are you okay with that? Because if you're not, we can ship you off. And I'll just close with these
What?
two things. All right, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were
I'll
about done. My
close
bad.
with these two. I'll just close with these two things. So I was looking at like possible trade scenarios. So Devontae Adams, when he went to the Raiders 2 years ago and he got traded from the Jets, I
Mm.
would say that's like a similar comparison. I think he was 29, AJ Brown's like 28. They both were
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of coming off of down seasons that were former All Pros, and he got traded for a third round pick that was conditional that could have been a second. And just one last thing I'll say too is I didn't even realize this. So Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert are 1 and 2 all time in Eagles postseason like receiving yards and like I didn't
Mm.
even realize that. So I'm like, wow, like so AJ Brown's not even like do this all these postseason runs. He hasn't even been like a crucial piece. It's been
Yeah.
Goddard and Smitty. Like
Yeah,
But
it is. Yeah, like I mean, you haven't really seen the big, the big moments from AJ Brown until the Super Bowl games themselves. In 22 he made that fantastic catch when Jalen threw that deep ball, but then otherwise he's quite quiet in the postseason games. So yeah, go on, just you go with
so
your thought.
before Drew makes his point, this is something that flashed in my head when Corey was doing his. If you come back, if they all agree, yeah, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do this. I like this offensive coordinator you brought in. I'm
Mm.
back. I'm going to be good and all this. Guess what, bud? You're back, but that captain's patch is coming off. It's going to Devontae. Devontae
Oh
handled
yeah.
himself like a professional, like a man. AJ walks out, doesn't talk to the media after that game, all that cryptic shit he does, and then Devontae stands
Mm.
there and he takes the heat, he takes the fire. Devontae is the consummate professional, and I'm like Ike. I think Devontae's the number one receiver on this team. I really do. So if you come back, that captain's patch is coming off. It's going back to Devontae. Devontae had it 2 years ago, and I know the players vote on it. I don't give a damn. If he's back, his name ain't even on the damn list. Whether they like it, he likes it. You can scratch your ass, kiss your ass. I don't care. It ain't happening.
Go on, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
Sorry.
support. I'll always support. I'll always support Devontae being a captain. Corey's stat. It's a great stat, and honestly, it doesn't shock me because if we all remember, like one of the first times we saw AJ upset was, I think, in that like playoff game in 2022 when we were crushing the Giants, and it seems like
Yeah.
we were up like 38-7, and he was mad about something, and Nick had to kind of just like calm him down for
Mm.
a second or two on the sideline. So yeah, a couple things. I think that when the report came out yesterday, I think it was from Joe Santoliquito about like requesting a trade. The timing was a little off-putting to me if it's accurate, because if he requested a trade after week 3, that is probably when the vibes were highest this season. Like it was a Jordan Davis block kick. AJ had
Yeah.
gone for like
Yeah.
10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Like the passing game had clicked in the second half. So it's like, yeah, like what more? Like your team's 3-0. You just won an awesome game. Like what more do you want there? Kind of thing. I think he's played his last game as an Eagle. And to be honest, I think it will be like a more amicable divorce than we might expect. Like I think
Yep.
both sides will say nice things about each other. I think it's kind of just like a relationship that, sort of like lost its spark, and you just, can't rekindle it. Now the one thing that I think will be interesting is I feel like AJ in his head has decided that like I'm going to New England. I'm going to force myself to New England. And it'd be really like, I guess I would love to see AJ's reaction if Howie goes to him, in mid-March when free agency opens, when the league year opens, and is like, hey man, listen, like I've been on the phone with the Patriots GM, and like we just like are far apart on like compensation.
Mm.
Like we can't make it work. And I'm gonna pick on a random bad team. I'll pick on like the Cardinals here for a second. Be
Yeah.
like, I know you don't want to be here. I can trade you to Arizona. And I'd be curious to be a fly on the wall for that meeting of almost like calling his bluff, where like, does he, want to play for, just like what's probably going to be what's a terrible franchise and like a terrible, Cardinals team where you're going to get all your numbers, but probably win 5 games.
Yeah.
So
Nothing.
one way
Yeah.
or another, I don't think he'll be here, but I'd love to know, kind of what would happen if a scenario like that came up.
Yeah. Go on, see, did you want to say something,
Yeah.
Cole? Ben?
So two things.
Yeah.
So what's funny about the New England thing is, if New England goes on and wins the Super Bowl, I wonder how much like that would change with their like, oh, do we really need AJ Brown? You know what I mean? Like, I wonder
Yeah.
how
Yep.
like that would change, because like I feel like there's like the Mike Vrabel thing. A lot of people in New England wanted AJ, but I think like they looked at it as like, oh, he's like a guy that could be a game changer as an elite receiver. But if they go on to win the Super Bowl, like, will they still look like, hey, do we need to, invest this much into like that kind of receiver?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
the second thing is with the whole AJ Brown requesting a trade, is like, people forget this, and I know this was like a different dynamic. Hassan Reddick literally had the most sacks an Eagle has had in a 2-year span since like Reggie White,
Yeah.
and we moved on from him and went on to win a Super Bowl. So like, not saying that AJ Brown, and I know like drafting wide receivers and replacing wide receivers has been like Howie's bugaboo for years, but
Mm.
it was the same way with cornerbacks, and we got 2 All Pros. So it's like, I'm willing to take that gamble, just like he did with Hassan Reddick, and just like he did with Coop and Q.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, you're all right in what you're saying, because like if you guys remember, when Carson wanted out and what have you, and it was obvious he wanted to go to the Colts because it was with Frank Reich and what have you, and how he was able to make that work because he had the right stuff to come back. Yeah, he had the picks back, that he wanted and stuff. But how he has I think how he will stick to his guns, like you guys are saying. Like, he's not gonna just accept anything for AJ Brown. You know what I mean? If like the Cardinals are offering more than what New England are gonna take, he's not. How he's been under the spotlight so much the last few years. Before we got to the Super Bowl in 2022, remember, across the river from WIP, it was a Fire Howie. You had that
Yeah.
big sign up on and stuff across the river. So he's learned from there. He's learned from his mistakes. He's learned from his lessons in the drafts and things. So he's not just going to take anything for AJ Brown. You're going to trade someone like AJ Brown, you've got to get value in picks and a decent player at the very least back for that. So he's not, if the Cardinals are giving you more, if the Cleveland Browns are going to offer you more, you go in there, AJ. You know what I mean? Call his bluff if you have to. Like Drew said, call his bluff, and let's find out if
I,
that's what he's willing. If he's that desperate to get away from the Eagles.
I
So
honestly think, though, if there is a trade, I think Howie will want picks over a player, unless it's like a player
Yeah.
with like young upside that he knows. Like, I think that like, even the Patriots, like if they win the Super Bowl and they trade 32, I think he will want to like use that asset and maybe flip that for a player, or choose the player that he wants in the, like, I don't think he
yeah.
Yeah.
will get a player back.
Yeah, definitely. So we get to the Phillies soon, but obviously we'll just go through the free agents that are coming up for the Eagles now. So there's guys we'd like back, there's guys we'd probably be glad to see the back of. So I've got like the quick list in front of me, and Dallas Goedert is obviously the big name that stands out, because he's going to want he's had a career year for the Eagles. Best year he's had. He was healthy more than he ever has been before, from when before he was first drafted. So he's had a career, and I think they will try to keep Dallas, especially what depending on what happens with AJ Brown as well, possibly. And I know he's going to want to be paid, but I think they can make a deal with Dallas Goedert. He seems happy in Philadelphia. He likes the Eagles. You never hear him complaining. You never hear anything bad coming out about Dallas Goedert. He's always been a team guy. He'll block his ass off, when he has to. You know what I mean? He's a team guy. So I'm hoping they can figure that out, depending on what happens. So there's other names out there. Reed Blankenship. Nakobe Dean, Jalen Phillips. You got Aziz Al-Jalari, he's probably not back. Brandon Graham, I don't know with Brandon Graham. I wouldn't
Forgot
bring
Aziz
BG.
was on the team for a second.
Yeah, I know. I love BG, but I think I think it's time to cut bait. Joshua Uche, he's not going to be back. Ogbo Aronco, he's not going to be back. You got Grant Calcaterra, Tylen Granson, Jahan Dotson, AJ Dillon, and then you got old linemen then Fred Johnson, Brett Toth.
So I got a bold prediction for this offseason.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys might have actually already said this, but I don't know. So my bold prediction is the Eagles keep Nakobe Dean and they trade Zach Bond.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
Well, if you're gonna do it, you got to clear up. You got to clear up space. So I don't know what Bond's trade value would be, but I could. I wouldn't do it, but I could see a path to that. Yeah.
The reason why I say that is because, like, in his press conference, he talked about his players that he drafts that he values, right? And like, I think we can all admit to this. Nakobe Dean was probably the first pick that, like, there was the pick to change the fortune of the linebacker position in Philadelphia. Bond was him, Campbell, Trotter, they all came after Nakobe. Nakobe was like the first one. I think Vic Fangio loves Nakobe, and I also obviously think he loves Zach Bond. Zach Bond will be 30 going into next season too. So I got. I'm not saying I'm right. I just think that's just a bold prediction that I have.
Yeah, it's a tough one because Nakobe. Yeah, go on, Just.
Well, that's a good one because, I mean, in that 49ers game, man, I counted 4 or 5 times Zach Bond overran a play. He looked stiff. I don't know if he was dealing with something injury wise, but he overran a play at least 4 or 5 times. And it was
a quiet year for Zach Bond this year. Quiet year.
I hadn't thought about that at all. That's not very outside. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there because you got Jahad Campbell that you drafted in the first round next year, and his body type and build is more of that of a Zach Bond. That's a good thing there, Corey. I like that.
Yeah,
I don't want to see Zach go. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. But we want to keep Nakobe. We all love Nakobe. You see, everybody sees how well Nakobe blitzes. Like he comes through that line.
Yeah.
I've seen him drill a guard and knock a guard back 4 steps. Yeah, he comes out like somebody fired a rocket out of his ass. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's a good comp thing there, Corey.
His injury, I feel like you could get him on a cheaper deal. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
He doesn't, like, obviously this is a negative and a positive. Like, he doesn't really play full season, so you can't come in saying like, hey, I want this amount of money when you're not always healthy.
Oh no, yeah. Nakobe is at the stage where he's going to have to take what they offer him, and unless there's other teams out there willing to give him that little extra, and he really. But I would think Nakobe would like to stay in Philly, especially when you got all the other Georgia boys around him as well, and that camaraderie, and he's the leader of the linebacking room. You know what I mean? Before Nakobe was hurt, and and they give the green dot to Zach Bone, it was Nakobe leading the leading the plays and stuff. So it's just a shame with Nakobe with the injury history because he's such a fantastic when he is on one, he is the best linebacker on the team. And it was weird with Zach Bone because I did note, you noticed like last year he was chasing guys down and stopping them, and this year it's been a bit quiet. You haven't really heard much around Zach Bone. Like you said, could he have had a secret injury they didn't really quite know about or want to address? You look at other guys, like Nolan Smith. He had a quiet year and he'd stepped up last year, but then Jalix Hunt stepped up this year. He had an improvement. So it's a strange one. So like, what do you guys think about like Reed Blankenship with safety? Because I'd like to bring Reed back for another year. I think he'd take a cheap deal again. I think he'd like to stay. He's got that relationship with Cooper DeJean. He stepped up as a leader, I would say, in as far as the safeties. I mean, he's the best safety on the team. So I mean, and what other option? I know Nakuba is he was playing well before he got hurt. but he was a rookie. We have to see what he looks like next year when he comes back healthy. So what do you guys think about it, Reed Blankenship? Do we bring him back, or do we try and see if there's a trade somewhere out there for another high name?
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead, Drew.
I think if Reed's not back, it's a shame in that, like, I think a lot of people will latch on to him. The final memory will be him kind of, just getting totally, beat, faked out on that trick
Caffrey,
play,
yeah.
and that's sad because he was a very good Eagle. He started in the in two NFC title games, one Super Bowl, and all. So that I think that's one. I mean, in terms of kind of like going back to like Corey's point of getting creative, I think that's one where, like, is there a scenario where do you save money? Do you put, the money towards another position? And do you say bring back, like Marcus Epps on like a really cheap deal and pair him with Makuba, and then you have, kind of like a safety duo there, and you have a veteran in Epps who has some experience, and then you have Makuba, who obviously, was much more green, but, we showed, seems to have a nose for the ball and an affinity for, taking the ball away. My gut says the Eagles say to Reed, like, hey, like, go out, like, keep us updated on what your market is.
Yeah.
Like, let us know your best offer, and we'll let you know if you're going to match it or not. My ultimate gut, though, is I think they move on. I think there's probably ways where they can, get like similar production for probably, less money, where that's my gut on Reed, that he's in a different uniform in September.
Yeah. Do you think Jalen Phillips is coming back? Because he's
But real
spoken
quick,
about that. Yeah,
Reed,
go on,
like
Cole.
what Drew said real fast, like I don't think Reed Blankenship's market is going to be crazy. So I feel like
No.
Yeah.
Reed could be those guys where like, oh, like, like we're on day 3 or day 4 of free agency, and like Eagles re-sign Reed Blankenship. It's like, oh yeah, Reed Blankenship. Like, it's like I don't think unless, I mean, like a team like the Titans that has like $150 million and they got to spend. You know what I'm saying? Like they throw money. I don't think he'll like have a huge market.
Yeah, that's what I think.
I
That's
agree.
why I think they could easily bring him back just to have that. Obviously you got that depth. Then if they could probably get like Drew said, they could probably get Marcus Epps back on a cheap deal as well. And at least then you've got him, Reed, and Nakuba when he comes back to work with in that safety room, because we've seen this year you can't rely on Sydney. There was hoping for that Sidney Brown step up, but he's just too unreliable. Apart from even on special teams,
Yeah.
he's
Sid's not a
getting called for
starter. It's just
penalties.
not going to happen for
I'm
him.
honestly ready for
No.
the Eagles should just cut face with Sidney Brown this offseason. And I was a huge Sidney Brown fan. Like, I wanted them to draft him, but the experiment has just like he has no control.
Yeah.
And like he's in year 3 now and he still has no control. Like
Yep.
Yeah, and this team's got enough problems with discipline. You know what I mean? They can't even stand still at the line of scrimmage without moving. So it's, yeah.
He and Keeley are great on special teams. They are. But I mean, you drafted Keeley the 4th round and Sydney in the 3rd. And I mean, yeah,
I mean, Sidney was
they
basically a second round.
was he? Okay.
And
I was
Keeley was
thinking Sydney
basically
was
a third. I think he was early 4th.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're great on special teams, but that's where, you get great special teams guys in the 6th and 7th, in my opinion. But, they're I think Keeley's still under contract for one more year. I think he'll be back, just as a special teams guy and throw him out there if somebody's injured. But I agree with Corey. Sidney is a liability on defense. I'm like Drew. If Sidney would have had to play that game, somebody would have had to do a wellness check on me, because I mean it didn't matter now. But my God, I was scared to death Sidney was going to have to play that playoff game.
Yeah, I know.
Going back to what you said, Adam, I think far and away Jalen Phillips is the most interesting name. I would want him back, but if this makes sense, I thought I was going to want him back more than maybe I actually do. I thought that first game he played with like the Packers and then maybe extended into the Lions game, he played like with his hair on fire. I thought he was all over the place, like, pressuring the quarterback and defending the run. I feel like I just didn't see him quite as much down the down the stretch. Now the complicated thing is obviously there's a couple of things. Vic likes him, and I think given the fact that Nolan Smith had such an uneven year, I don't know that you can go into, go into draft weekend with just like Jalix and Nolan as your top two edge guys, where I kind of lean towards bringing him back, but I think that's the biggest decision that Howie has to make in terms of the, actual free agents.
Yeah,
And one thing
definitely. I mean,
one thing I do agree with Elliot too. He kind of talked about it yesterday on when he did his hit on WIP. Like, I do think that this is going to be an offensive centric draft. Like, if we move
Yep.
on from AJ Brown, I mean, there's gonna be offensive linemen. I like Dallas Goedert. To me, is very, very intriguing. I think Dallas will want to come back, but you get into a scenario where, let's say, for example, let's just use for example Kellen Moore. Let's say Kellen Moore says, "Hey, you can come down here to New Orleans. We'll pay you $12 million a year, and you'll be a focal point in our offense." In Philly, like, I think he'll be a focal point, but it's also, if AJ Brown comes back, you're already the fourth option because you have Saquon, you have Smitty, and then you have, AJ, and you're already battling for third place between Smitty and Goddard, or AJ and you know what I'm saying? So I feel like if a scenario like that happens, Goddard, he's already won a Super Bowl. He could be like, hey, I can go get paid, put up 1,200, 1,300 yards, and build a legacy. Maybe that.
yeah, it is
But
really like intriguing what's going to happen with that. Go on, Justin.
if he stays in Philadelphia, even with AJ here, isn't he more of a focal point in the red zone? I mean, what do he have, 11 touchdowns this year? So I mean, he's a huge
Yeah,
But
focal point once you
that
get
was the
into the
first.
red
But that,
zone.
if we're being honest, that was the first year. Like, if they would have been doing this with Goddard since he's been here, Goddard
Yep,
could have been like the greatest tight end in
I
Eagles
agree.
history. But this is
I
yeah,
the
it would
first
have
agree.
year
been. Yeah.
they've ever done this.
I
Yeah,
agree
I
totally,
mean,
man.
all the quarterbacks have had success with a tight end, haven't they? You know what I mean? You had Brent Selleck, you had Carson and Zach Ertz had a great connection, and it's slowly built with Jalen and Dallas as well. So it's
I,
it's going to be really, really interesting.
going back to
And
Jalen
you also
Phillips,
have
I
to
think.
battle. Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
No, but what I was going to say, going back to Jalen Phillips, I think before they sign him, I think they reach out to the Raiders and see what the trade might be for Max Crosby. Max Crosby and the Raiders are going to part ways. We all seen how he was upset.
Mm,
They put him on the injured list at the end of the season, and he's like, "I'm not injured. What are y'all doing?"
yeah.
I don't
Mm,
think Max is a Raider for long. I think they put out a feel for a real true edge rusher to put in this defense, whether that means pairing up Nolan Smith and some draft picks or something. But I think they reach out to see what the trade is for Max Crosby.
yeah, they will definitely need to fix that thing at end, because obviously I know Jalix hadn't stepped up a little bit this year, Ravi, but you probably can't count on that again next year, and we weren't able to count on it from last year with Nolan Smith, unfortunately. So before their trade value declines, if Howie can figure something out, we'll see what happens. So before we finish up today, obviously we had another disappointing couple of pieces of news yesterday. The Phillies for the last week and a half is thought that they were going to be able to land Bo Bichette from the Blue Jays. He wanted I think a 7-year, $200 million contract, something like that. And I think the Phillies had met his demands, and then all of a sudden, like Corey said earlier, the 11th hour, the Mets out of nowhere come in and screw us. Screw us. I mean, Bo Bichette screwed us, really. He chose to take a 3-year, $126 million deal where he can opt out. And once again, the Phillies have had to watch another big name free agent go to the Mets as well, because like last year we were all, everyone was in on what would you do to get Juan Soto, and he ultimately went to the Mets. And so we've lost Ranger Suarez now. He signed a 5-year, $150 million deal with the Boston Red Sox. So the Phillies obviously, I don't know. We don't really know what this. So maybe they were happy to have Ranger go anyway. To leave him go. Maybe that was always in the plan. There was all that talk in the off season. So, you know, they're going to be a guy short with the pitching at the start of the season because we don't know, you know, still don't know the timeline when Zach Wheeler's going to be able to return. So Bo Bichet's, you know, that name is gone. There's a couple of names out there. You know, Jack has been hot on Cody Bellinger. You got what's his name? The third baseman, Eugenio Suarez. I think he's another name. Yeah, he's another name still out there. So how are you guys sort of, you know, we saw JT Realmuto, he's been re-signed for 3 years, 45 million with incentives to go up to 60 million. I suppose if he reaches certain milestones, but you know, we saw that decline in JT last year. But I suppose, you know, Ricky Bowe said a good point this year on the Fanatic that the JT thing is just a band-aid over a bigger, you know, issue, you know. So how are you guys feeling about the Phillies yesterday? Because it was another big gut punch to us all. Drew, do you wanna lead off with the Phils?
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be a better leadoff hitter than Trey's been in the playoffs at times here. Yeah, they're in a really tough spot, and I don't know if they realize how they're perceived right now. Like I actually worry, and it's a shame because they've given us a lot of good memories. I worry that like there could be a world where like people who are Phillies fans like kind of subconsciously start like rooting against them a little bit because they're just just kind of fed up with what's happened over the past over over the past couple years. I mean, I was thinking about it yesterday, and I haven't looked this up across the league, but basically, if you think back to like the World Series against the Astros in 2022, and then look at now, like you're looking at having like 6 of the same like guys in the lineup between Harper, Schwarber, you know, JT, and let's say Bohm, Stott, and Marsh. Like can you imagine? Like think about how long ago that feels. Like, can you imagine if the Eagles right now still had like I don't know like Kaiser White and like Miles Sanders and like TJ Edwards and like basically running back like the exact same team that's come up short. They're in a tough spot, and I would have almost rather taken like a pause year in terms of like, you know, when the Bichette news dropped of like, hey, like let's let like the Castellanos money, the Taiwan money, the Bohm money come off the books after this year. Let's see how some of the kids look in, you know, Crawford and Andrew Painter and maybe Aiden Miller. You know, there's a decent chance you can sneak into the playoffs anyway with a little less baggage. And let's, you know, see if we can kind of like just get hot and catch lightning in a bottle again, like 2022. And then we'll go back at this after the lockout ended. I would have rather done that than just kind of like signing JT for the sake of signing JT. So yeah, we can talk about some other pivots from here, but they're in a really tough spot. And for as much as, you know, it seems like the Eagles, unfortunately, you know, it seems like didn't learn their lesson about internal promotions not working out. And I worry the Phils are repeating, you know, a lot of like things that went poorly from like 2012 to 2021 that led to that playoff drought.
That standing ovation is coming for Ryan Kirkland anyway. At some point when he first comes out, there's going to be some sort of whether that happens, I don't know. But it'll be funny. How are you feeling, Cole?
So yeah, I'm the same place with Drew. So like the difference between the Eagles and the Phillies, which is crazy to say, is like because like we've the long road travel with Howie Roseman. I think most Philadelphia fans has like the faith, like, hey, Howie will get this back on track, whether that's by OC draft, like Howie will get us back to where we want to be. The thing about the Phillies is I don't know if Dave Dombrowski has a pulse of the city, and I don't know if he has a pulse of like today's modern day baseball.
He don't.
I don't think he understands that these players nowadays want shorter deals with more money, average yearly value. Hey, they don't want the, you know, Bryce Harper 13 years, 6 like unless even a guy like Bryce Harper. Like Bryce Harper still has 4 years left on his deal, but he wants a new deal just for like these guys want to get paid. And I don't know if Dave Dombrowski has a temperature on that. And also, it's like when you look at the Phillies, it's almost like, hey, let's just like it's like you keep throwing something at the wall hoping it sticks. It's like what Drew said. They've had 6 of the same returning starter, lineup in the lineup. And then if you add Trey Turner, who came the season after that,
Yeah,
like Trey Turner, that's 7 in the past 3 years, and it's no changes. There's going to be the same order, like Schwarber either's going to have to lead off, or like it's like Schwarber's not going to have the year that he had last year. You just paid him.
no,
He's not going to hit 50 plus home runs again. Um, Bryce Harper is another year older. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Like Bryce Harper declined last year. Trey Turner had a good season, but did not play well in the postseason. And it's like we see teams like the Dodgers and the Mets. The Dodgers, nobody, as long as they're healthy and playing baseball, nobody's going to beat them. So I
yeah,
wish that we would have took the approach of, hey, kind of like having a pause year, saying, hey, we're going to let a lot of these contracts expire. Load up. The lockout year is coming. After the lockout, we're going to try to make a run at the postseason or run at the
yeah.
World Series Cup or whatever.
My
Like
my my yeah, go on.
we're not going to do that with this team. Like the best that
No,
this team is going to give you is a first round exit. That's the
Yep.
yeah,
max, because we've seen it when they were at their peak the past 2 years. They gave you a first round exit. Like they're not going to give you like this team's not going to the NLCS. They're not going to the World Series. It's
mm,
just annoying. It's like you're going into the season knowing that you're not going to do anything.
yeah. That's what my issue is. It's like you've got John Middleton, not too long ago, going on. I think he went on. I don't know if it was on WIP. It was a clip online, but you've got that famous quote from him now where he wants to get his effing trophy back and what have you. But since then, what has he done? Where is the money spent? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, all right, you brought in Trey Turner and what have you, but that hasn't really worked out. Bryce is getting older, and now you've got Dave Dombrowski coming out at the end of the season with that elite comment. So now you've
Right.
got Bryce going into the world to play in the World Baseball Classic, and I feel that's out of spite. That's the sort of like spite Dave Dombrowski to show that he can be elite. Well, it's no offense to like the international like baseball players, but if you look at the American team going into the World Baseball Classic, you know what I mean. It is quite stacked. Kyle Schwarber's playing. You've got all these other guys that they've got a good bullpen going in there, good starters going in there, and it's going to be America and Japan. You know what I mean? Like the other international. I mean, the UK, Great Britain have got a team. They've got to play America in the group, and I'm not confident about that. So but I'm looking forward to watching it. I'll watch the baseball classic because it is nice to watch. It's having now that bit more baseball. Um, but that's my biggest frustration is like you said, Cole, Dave Dombrowski, John Middleton. I don't think they have their finger on the pulse of like how we actually feel as
and,
fans. They
and
cannot
some
be
of the
paying attention
players,
to the anger. They must be blind to it. It does not make
right,
sense.
and some of the young players just aren't getting like I'm a huge Bryson Stott. I love Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott hasn't gotten better. Like I mean, he's maybe gotten a little
No.
bit, like Brandon Marsh hasn't gotten better. You know what I mean? It's like I don't think that like they haven't gotten better. Like.
Yeah. How are you feeling, Just? Because obviously for you, obviously everyone knows you've always been a lifelong Red Sox fan, but you've always you've adopted the Phillies as well as your national team, and so you've got Ranger Suarez is obviously a big addition to the Red Sox, but you've been in the thick of it with the Phillies as well. That over the years now for a long time. So how are you feeling about the Phils and we're just running it back
Yeah.
again. Here we go again.
If
Yeah.
if you listen to my son, he says I'm more of a Phils fan than a Sox fan anymore because I listen to WIP all day, every day, except for between 11 and 2 p.m. when I listen to my
Mm,
guy down here in Tennessee. So I know more about what the Phils
yeah.
are doing than the Red Sox. But I think signing JT right after the announcement of Bichette, and I don't know if the Phils put that out or if JT's team leaked that out. That was poor timing because Everybody
Very
was
tone
just
deaf all around.
yes, there was rage tweeting all around from Phil's fans
Yeah.
after the Bichette deal came down. And I mean, what if you do it just like wait a couple of days, you know what I'm saying?
And
And you
imagine,
give him
real quick, just not to interrupt you, but imagine being JT. Like,
yeah,
hey JT,
yeah.
we didn't get Boba Fett, but hey, we want you back. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, not all, if you're JT, you're like, well, I don't give a shit. I got my, what was it, 13, 15 million he got. But the thing about JT is, hey, you know, I've been here for all these years and everything, and we've re-signed you. But Phil's fans are like, we don't give a damn. We didn't want
Mm.
JT back at this price. We had our minds made up. We were getting Bo Bichette, and we were going to get I forget the catcher that Jack kept throwing out there to where his stats were comparable to JT's, and you could have got him for maybe 7 million a year. But you know that is just so tone deaf that what maybe at 30 minutes after the Bichette contracts announced, they come out, hey, you know, we signed JT to a 3 year, $45 million with the with 5 million a year incentives worked into the clause and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I I felt so bad for Jack yesterday. I mean, I did. Jack loves the Phillies like I love the Eagles. You know, football is my thing. You know what I'm saying? I love
Mm.
baseball. For me, it's football and baseball. But if you
Yeah.
make me marry and kill one, I'm killing baseball. I'm marrying football and you know I don't even look at basketball pretty much anymore. I hate that product so much. But it's so sad because Phil's fans had, well, what if we get Bellinger? What if we make a run at Kyle Tucker? And then the Bo Bichette stuff starts up. Now you've got Bellinger still out there. You've still got Eugenio Suarez still out there. And I saw Jack tweet this morning. Maybe you can work a deal and send Bone somewhere and you get Suarez in and you just hit a lot of home runs and
Mm.
maybe they all get hot at the right time or something in the playoffs. I don't know. But I think the
Yeah.
Phils have got to do something because the fan base is mad as hell right now.
what the Phillies could do this year, one thing that the Phillies could do, and I'll let you go next year, sorry, is that
You're good.
they should rally around each other because clearly the
Yeah.
fans aren't happy. They should go into this season and say, okay, you guys don't believe in us. Watch this. I feel like
Yeah.
if they do that, they will probably get more buy-in, but I don't know.
It's all they got left. It's all they've got left to do at this point. Yeah. Go on, Drew.
Well, Justin, I was going to ask you from a Red Sox perspective, and it will kind of tie into the Phils a little bit. Would you rather have Ranger at the contract they sign him, or would you have rather paid a little more and brought back Alex Bregman? Because my
Yeah.
concern with the
Yeah.
Phils is they got so laser focused
Yep.
on Bichette that they could have let a guy like Bregman, who I think in terms of like, you know, bat to ball, like winning pedigree, like position, like everything, they could have just let him pass by. And I don't know that Bregman would have wanted to come here, but if they offered Bichette that type of money, theoretically you had the money. So you
Mm.
know, so obviously Dombrowski read a lot of things wrong. I'm curious like option A, option B, who you would have rather had for the Sox
I,
there.
I'd rather had Bregman because you brought Bregman in and it totally upset the apple cart with Devers. You told Devers, put your glove down, you don't need it anymore, and all that stuff happened. You had a generational
Mm.
hitter at third base, and you tell him, all right, we don't need you to play third. Put your glove down. You're just going to DH, and then Bregman gets hurt, and Tristan Cassis gets hurt, and you're like, well, maybe you can play first. And it just upsets everything, and you wind up having to trade Devers. And they led everybody to believe, well, you know, we've freed up all this money, we can go after free agents now. And everybody was thinking, well, that's just going to help us because everybody knew Bregman was going to opt out. Everybody knew it was coming. And they're like, well, we can re-sign Bregman to a long-term deal now and all that. And they shit the bed on this thing, man. They kept
Yeah.
lowballing him from everything I've read. And then when the Cubs came in, the Red Sox tried to come in and match it, but he was over it by then from everything I've read and heard. So I mean, I'd have much rather had Bregman than Ranger. I'm happy with Ranger. Ranger's seems like a really good dude, really great pitcher in the postseason. We've all seen that. But yeah, me personally, I'd rather have Bregman because he's older. That's a very young team that the Red Sox have, and he'd be a hell of a leader for it. And I think the Cubs, fun stat in the draft that Bregman was drafted in, Dansby Swanson was number one, Bregman was number two. Now they play beside one another, third and short for the Cubs.
Yeah, it may end with the football team this weekend, but the vibes in Chicago are like too high
Yeah,
right now. Like I am jealous
yeah,
of how good the vibes are in Chicago
yeah.
at
Yeah.
the moment.
At least
Something
you
something I
could finish
hate.
the bear now guilt free.
So Drew, this is
Yeah,
before you got on. I said this like this literally way off topic, but I don't know if you noticed where like they said that they're like struggling with John Harbaugh to sign the contract with the Giants. He
Mhm.
still signed it
Mm.
yet. I said nothing will make my week more happier if I just see
yeah.
like, you know, John Harbaugh decided not to sign with the Giants and decided to go to like a different team.
Yeah,
Miami.
Would
I
be
Yeah.
mean,
so on brand for the Giants over the past decade to
yeah,
Yeah,
fumble that at like the 1 yard line.
we need something, guys, because this has been a rough week. So yeah,
So real quick before we get off here,
yeah, go on, Jess.
so I know there's still a lot of football left to be played. We've wallowed in
Mm.
misery the last week and stuff, and I don't think I watched any more football after we watched last Sunday. I didn't watch the Sunday night game, and I damn sure didn't watch the Monday night game. So I'm gonna try. I gotta go out today and do some stuff, run some errands and everything. But I'm gonna probably watch the Bills and Broncos. Now I feel like
Oh yeah, it'll
I'm
be a
ready
good
to watch
game.
football again, but I'm gonna go out. I'm pulling for the Bills rest of the way. Who are you guys pulling for? We're all going to watch. We're football junkies. Who are we pulling for? I'm going for the Bills.
I got two teams I'm pulling for. Obviously, I'm a Josh. I like Josh Allen, but number one, I got to pull for my guy C.J. Stroud. OH, I'm always pulling for my
Gotcha.
guys.
Gotcha. Drew?
Go on, Drew.
This is a really hard one. I don't even know that I have I liked Sam Darnold coming out of the draft, like out of USC, like years and years ago, but I can't say I can't say I'm actually rooting for the Seahawks. I'm gonna take I'm still too like distraught over last weekend. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take a cop out answer and say Milton Williams and Mac Hollins, go get yourselves another ring with the Patriots, because I do like watching Drake May play. So
Yeah,
it's a bad answer because they've won so many already, but that's all I can pull right now.
yeah. I'm kind of torn between the Bills and the Broncos. Obviously, they got to play each other tonight, but I like the Broncos, and it would be good for the Bills to finally get over the hump, or get to the Super Bowl. And I mean, like we talked about for ages, like this might be, it's probably not going to be his last shot at it, obviously, but this couldn't have been set up better for Josh Allen, you know what I mean, to get there with the Bills, at least get to the Super Bowl, So, we'll see. As far as the NFC, um, I'd probably
I'm
go
not,
with Chicago. Yeah,
I'm not rooting for an NFC team. I don't want no team in the NFC to win,
Yeah.
I know.
especially
But
especially not the
I
Cleveland.
like, Chicago. They came back last week, and I don't think they will get there, obviously. But we'll see. But I'm torn between the Broncos and the Bills, I guess, really overall. But we'll see what happens with their game tonight. But yeah. So guys, we'll call it there. I know it's been a tough couple of weeks, and we'll see what happens. We got spring training coming up soon, and we'll enjoy the rest of the playoffs, and hopefully the rest of these games will be exciting as wildcard weekend was, because all the games on wildcard weekend were absolutely crazy. In the end, they were really fun to watch. Apart from our game, obviously, where trust the Eagles to go and kill the vibes. But there we go. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll probably do like a Phillies pod, just to see what happens the next few weeks leading up to spring training, and we'll get when we get a bit closer to draft season now, we'll do a couple of draft pods as well. See what we like coming out of the draft and stuff. So yeah, we'll go from there. But guys, yeah, go on,
Also,
just
real quick, for the folks that watch us, listen to us, we appreciate you. I don't know shit from Shaunola about hockey. I'm trying. So if I'm getting into hockey, I'm gonna be a Flyers fan. I've reached out to Hunter Brody, and Hunter Brody has agreed to come on with us at some point in time and
yeah,
school me and Adam on
Bros is
hockey.
awesome. That's cool.
Adam's got his Flyers quarter zip on, so we're gonna try to get into some
Flies top.
hockey too. Like I said, I'm like
Yeah,
a
I
I'm
don't.
like a lost duck in high weeds with hockey, but I'm gonna give her a whirl, boys.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, so thanks guys for coming on, and until next time, go Birds and go Phils, I guess. Take care. We
Go
see you all
Birds.
soon.
Love y'all, man.